Hi, I'm Kent Smethers, a professor here at the Wharton School, and I'm going to give you a quick overview of the new Social Security Policy Simulator that's available at the Penn Wharton Budget Model Group. And you can see from the screen here is that you have a choice of various graphs that you can be looking at, things like trust fund reserves, non-interest surplus, which is the difference between benefits paid and tax income received, Social Security taxes, benefits, interest income, lots of other varieties. And we also compare our results against those from the Social Security Administration and the Congressional Budget Office. And first off, before we do even think about any policy changes, you can see that our model projects that we will exhaust. The trust fund exhaustion date will be about 3.5 to 4 years earlier than the Social Security trustees project. In particular, we see deficits happening around 2031. And come 2031, we're seeing projecting that we'll actually have a non-interest surplus of about $350 billion in today's dollars, eventually growing to over $1.2 trillion per every single year, again in today's dollars. And our 75-year shortfall is about a third larger than what you see from the Social Security Administration. And to understand why, you can look at the Social Security tax revenue, and we have a more pessimistic projection of tax revenue coming in over time. And the reason behind that is that our model starts with census-level data, and we construct these transition rules based on various big data sets across many different key attributes, age, race, marriage, divorce, number of kids, education, and many other attributes across a lot of population subgroups. So we're really working kind of bottom up. And as a result of that, we can see how productivity in the economy is changing as you have these large labor force composition changes as people are going into retirement. They're being replaced by younger people, and the average productivity per worker, for example, goes down. As a result of that, our benefits also go down a little bit relative to Social Security, but our tax revenue is the main difference. And our numbers line up a little bit closer to the CBO's own model on this. All right, so now let's consider some different policy changes, and we have 6 options to pick from here. Increasing the payroll tax, increasing the taxable maximum, and lots of other options. There's altogether, there's 6 options. Each has 4 different combinations associated with it. So there's actually 4 to the 6th power different combinations, 4,096 policy combinations that you can run. Now our model, each one takes about 30 minutes to an hour to run. So you might be wondering how you're getting instant feedback as you move things around and different policy changes. And the reason is we're using cloud computing to do all the computations ahead of time. And so that gives you instant feedback. Let's consider a couple of policy changes that policymakers for years have been kind of talking about. Let's, for example, talk about raising the normal retirement age, this one down here. And we have a little tool tip here where it basically says what the current law is. In particular, the retirement age is going up to age 67, roughly about 2 months per year. And if you want more info, it can give you even more expanded information. And so this would be a policy change to continue that increase if you wanted to do that, say, even to age 70. And now when we do that, you'll notice here that the impact on the trust fund exhaustion date from increasing the retirement age is basically less than 1 year. It's a very small change. And by the way, if you wanted to, you could even kind of zoom in on a particular years and kind of get more information. You can actually look at particular years, the values, and so forth. And it doesn't have a big impact. However, over time, increase in the retirement age does does have a much bigger impact on the non-interest surplus. The big deficit over time goes down, and what's going on here is essentially increasing the retirement age is simply basically too late to solve the problem, at least for the trust fund. It can be part of a longer term solution, but it just simply phases in too slowly over time. And then we have some other things that you can consider here. One is a progressive benefit reduction. And here it explains, the tooltip explains how benefits are currently calculated. In particular, the government currently calculates your benefits equal to 90% replacement rate up to a certain value called a bend point, then 32%, and then 15%. And so this is a policy where you keep the 90% replacement rate for poorer households constant, but you decrease the replacement rate on richer households. And you can see the impact on the trust fund is actually also fairly small. And the current policies are blue line, the red policy is kind of the new line, and it barely kind of moves the trust fund exhausting date. And the intuition behind that is, again, it just is a bit too late to have an impact on things. It phases in too slowly. However, again, over time, it has a much bigger impact. And then you can start to do interactions like, suppose I want to do a progressive benefit reduction, increase the normal retirement age. And you can now start to see that it has a much bigger impact over time. In terms of the trust fund reserves themselves, again, not a huge impact, at least in the short run. Okay, so now let's consider, other things. I mean, you can, a lot of people have argued for like increasing the taxable maximum. Right now, your payroll is being taxed up to $118,000, $500 per year at a 12.4% tax rate. And so some people have argued that maybe we should levy that tax over a larger income base. And what we can see is, for example, as we go to say increase to $250,000, it actually has an impact on the trust fund. As we go to $400,000, it has a slightly bigger impact. Not much of a difference going from $250,000 to $400,000 households. There's just not enough households there. And as you go above $400,000 dollars, it has almost no impact going forward. But again, we get some life, but over the long term, it starts to get a little bit bigger. This is one of those policies that has a much bigger impact in the short run because it's immediately happening than but relative to the long term. And so you can now start to think about different combinations. I mean, there's 4,096 combinations here for you to explore. I haven't even explored every single combination. And so you can see the trade-offs yourself, especially between the long run and the short run, by giving your own combinations a try. Thank you.